Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 4th of July at the time of this recording, and it currently certainly does not feel like a day to celebrate our independence as we continue to move further and further into the type of authoritarian rule we look to overthrow, and then throwing on top this disgusting reverse Robin Hood bill on top of everything does not really scream fireworks, barbecue, and celebration. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be breaking down this quote, big, beautiful bill that Trump and the Republicans like to call it. I'm going to look at the voting in the Senate and House, so how it ended up passing. Then I'm going to break down the bill. I'm going to look at the most important parts of the bill and the impact that some of these policies will have. And then I'm going to finish actually with some viewer responses. I did kind of a pulse check, guys, on Instagram to see how you guys were feeling. And I want to share those feelings with you guys. Now, we are going to start with how this bill passed the Senate. So it passed earlier in the week. The vote actually was a 50-50 tie. When there is a tie in the Senate, the vote is ultimately broken by the vice president. So J.D. Vance did cast the tie-breaking vote with glee as his party actively stripped away health care from millions and food assistance from millions. I'm going to play that clip from you now from the announcement.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
So one of the unique things about this moment, obviously the Republican Party can bear the weight of this. I'm going to discuss that a lot. But J.D. Vance, that is going to be his moment there, ingrained in history. He had the tie-breaking vote. He went up there and he voted for this disgusting atrocity of a bill. So that is on record on the floor there, as you guys could see. Now, a little fallout after this, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, she took a lot of heat from her vote. Obviously, it was a very close vote, and one vote could have swung things in either direction. The argument here is she basically sold out the rest of the country for personal favors for her state. And guys, Murkowski already admitted, she has admitted multiple times, that she is like scared of her position, which my argument would be get out of the way and let someone in there who's going to do the job they need to. But she's also admitted, guys, that she knows this bill will cause harm and then went and voted for it anyway. And then when confronted by reporters after a vote, you guys can see this kind of viral photo now, but this spread across the internet in terms of like, oh my God, like I don't know. It's just like I call it a stun face. But really, it's not about Lisa Murkowski. It's about the millions of Americans that she screwed over by switching her vote. Now, we're going to fast forward, guys, to the House. So this passed then in the House midday yesterday on July 3rd, followed by, obviously, a round of applause by the Republicans. There were even some chants of USA in conjunction with, July 4th being the next day or today if you're watching this on Independence Day. But guys, based on the voting, which was purely along party lines, there were, I believe, two individuals in the House who were Republicans who voted against this. But based on the breakdown along party lines, this abhorrent bill and any fallout from this, without a doubt, lies at the feet of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Democrats did not vote for this. This is a Republican bill. This is not a bipartisan bill either. Which is also, guys, just a note to the Democrats, stop trying to do bipartisan stuff when the other side of the aisle is not interested in doing the same thing. That's why you guys get screwed over time after time after time again, is you think you're working with people who actually want to work with you, and you get hoodwinked every single time, and you get absolutely nothing done. Hence, we're at where we're at right now. But guys, before I break this down into even more detail, this reverse Robin Hood bill, and I'm calling it that because it's taking, or it's a giant wealth transfer, taking money from the lower class, people who are already struggling the most just to get by, to provide tax cuts for the richest people in society. So, for instance, industries that are going to struggle, guys, the healthcare industry, which we know is already incredibly taxed. We have a failing healthcare system that's going to be taxed even further. Low income households, low income individuals will hurt the most from this legislation. And guys, there's also just an entire tack on clean energy and any climate change mitigation initiatives. So that is catastrophic for obviously present day. I mean, we are seeing climate catastrophes happen in present day, but for sure, future generations. Now, those who are already doing well are going to do even better. So things like corporations, fossil fuel companies will continue to drill, burn, destroy the environment for profit, and high income households will obviously be getting tremendous tax breaks. But let's get into what I found to be some of the most important parts of the bill and the inherent ramifications of these policies, okay? So first one, we're going to talk about the tax cuts. So this bill permanently extends most of Trump's 2017 tax cuts, but adds additional tax cuts for certain businesses. Just so you guys know, many people complain about the current economy in the tax structure, but we've been under Trump's tax plan, guys, since 2017. I think some people, when Biden was in office, were complaining about their taxes. Guys, that's Trump. We are still under Trump's plan. It has been in place since 2017. He just permanently now extended it and gave even more tax breaks to certain businesses. So this is going to add to the deficit to the tune of approximately $4 trillion. And obviously, guys, tax breaks for the rich are going to exacerbate wealth inequality as the rich continue to avoid paying their fair share. And we're going to be moving, guys, increasingly towards an oligarchical type of society where people in that 1%, the richest among us, have all the resources, they have all the wealth, they're able to buy up things. So things like housing continues to be expensive, education, things are going to be, there's going to be an eliminating of the middle class due to these tax cuts, okay? Now, another thing I wanted to look at, there was a child tax credit increase from $200 from $2,000 to $2,200, despite on his campaign talking about doing a child tax credit of upwards of $5,000. So guys, a $200 increase is negligible. It's going to have no tangible difference or impact on families raising kids over the course of a year. $200 isn't even keeping up with the cost of inflation. So that is just kind of a laughable slap in the face increase. But guys, the reason he didn't really go, in my opinion, the reason he didn't increase that more is he wants people investing in these new Trump accounts for babies. Where, you know, there's like an investment and you can go in and apply additional funds, but there is some private ownership of it. And ultimately, guys, researchers have said that it will exacerbate wealth inequality because those at the top are going to be able to contribute more into these accounts. Whereas other similar programs that have been implemented at the state rather than federal level, those have seen some levels of success because they were only available for low income families. So this is likely, once again, the Trump account to exacerbate wealth inequality. Now, another thing that is in this bill, guys, the Republicans at large, remove taxes on gun silencers and certain firearms. So just take a moment, think about what removing taxes on silencers and firearms means. And guys, that is obviously going to lead to more people being able to access and buy guns. Even though we are already flowing in a sea of guns where we actually have more guns than people in the United States, which is just absolutely insane. But there is nothing more Republican than servicing the NRA and living in an endless sea of guns. That is what the Republican Party has leaned into with their partnership with the NRA. Now, we're going to talk next about the no tax and tips on overtime provision. So once again, guys, I lead into the research and the experts on this, and they are stating that this provision, once again, is going to overwhelmingly benefit already people who are higher paid or higher tipped workers with limited actual tangible impact for low income earners, even if they work on tips or they work overtime hours. Another kind of caveat to this, guys, is this expires in 2028. So what they did is they make permanent the things they want, actually, like the tax cuts for the rich, right? They make that harder to get rid of. But then something like this that they don't fundamentally care about, they'll have it expire in basically 3 years and just go away. And they can say they quote unquote accomplished it, even though once again, it's not even really accomplishing what it seems like on the surface level it would. Moving forward, guys, we are going to talk next about ICE and military spending. This has been making its rounds a lot on social media, but they are adding $30 billion to ICE's base budget through September of 2029, and they are adding an additional $45 billion to detention centers along with that. So that, guys, is a total of $75 billion on top of whatever ICE's budget will be for the upcoming years. And this figure is bigger than many countries' entire military budget. So we are waging war within our own borders, right, on undocumented immigrants at a scale that is greater than most countries' entire military budget. So what does this ultimately mean? There are going to be more hiring of ICE agents, more raids of people just without proper documentation at workplaces, schools, restaurants, graduations, places like that, everyday places, even going to their hearings, like the immigration hearings, going to those, and then people have been detained at those, even though they're trying to do it the correct legal way, they're still getting detained. And guys, the numbers are out on this. I've said this from the get-go. It was never just about the criminals, because the number of undocumented criminals in this country would not have led or equated to the mass deportation numbers they wanted. So just so you guys know, only 8% of the people detained by ICE have been violent criminals. So those are the ones that Trump and his administration likes to propagate. Only 8 out of every 100 detained actually fit that description. And then 72% have no criminal record at all. So if you believe that, it was a lie. If you're okay with people being treated the way they are treated just for not having correct documentation, that seems like a morality issue. That's separate than the actual, legality and the numbers of what is happening, okay? Now, this is also going to lead to more detention centers popping up all over the country, like we see in the Everglades, Alcatraz Alley that has opened recently. There's also going to be now more funding of corrupt private systems to house undocumented immigrants. There's also now money in this bill for an increased surveillance state. So more like facial recognition software, more data sharing, and more surveillance tools for ICE agents, and an increase in expanding of deportation flights to send people to inhumane prisons incorrectly, like they did with Kilmore Abrego Garcia and sending him to CICOT in El Salvador, where he was tortured and abused. Cases like that, guys, are going to continue to emerge and become more frequent, where people's rights are just blown by, ignored, and people are just wrongly imprisoned in these torture camps. Now, moving forward to defense spending. So that is just domestic ICE spending. That doesn't even get to the bloated military budget. So they're increasing defense spending in this bill by approximately $150 billion. So that brings the 2026 budget, guys, to nearly $1 trillion in just our military spending alone, which far exceeds every other country in the world. You can combine many military budgets across the world, and they do not come anywhere close to what we are seeing with our military budget in the United States. And I want to couple that, guys, with, remember, the Pentagon cannot pass an audit. So they're taking our tax dollars, they're enriching defense contractors, and we have no transparency into where our tax dollars are going in an already insanely bloated military budget. They're also funding things, guys, like kamikaze drones with some of this money, AI systems, munitions, missile defenses. Once again, guys, enriching defense contractors. And they're also throwing around this idea of using funding for the U.S. Space Force, including this far-fetched Golden Dome idea. Guys, experts in the field have said over and over again that this is a ridiculous idea that would likely be incredibly expensive with limited effectiveness. But it won't, to put a number on this, guys, what I have read is this will take decades to build. It will largely be ineffective, and it would cost anywhere between $400 to $700 billion to cover the entire continental United States. And that does not include the billions of dollars of upkeep that will be required each year, not including the changing technologies, because if it's taking decades to build, you would need to enhance it to account for the upgrade in technology. It is just a far-fetched, ridiculous idea, but they are going to be spending some of our taxpayer money on this. Now, moving forward, guys, we are going to talk about the cuts like to everyday Americans. And unfortunately, this bill targets the population that tends to struggle, or the populations that struggle the most in this country. So they are cutting Medicaid funding up to $1 trillion. So guys, the ramifications of this, an estimated 500,000 healthcare professionals are likely to lose their job over the next decade, which will strain the healthcare system even further, particularly in rural communities who already struggle with access. Approximately 17 million low-income individuals could also lose their health insurance and no longer be covered. This is likely also going to lead to thousands of avoidable deaths over time. So guys, you pair this cut of healthcare that is going to lead to deaths that are avoidable, pair that with the 14 million additional deaths globally by 2030 from the USAID funding cuts, USAID funding cuts. And this administration, guys, is directly enacting policies that are leading to deaths globally and now domestically. It's indisputable. We have the data and the research for the USAID or USAID. I don't know which way you guys prefer saying that, but that funding, that research has been done. And then obviously, guys, eliminating healthcare from people is going to lead to unnecessary hospital visits, emergency room visits, and yes, deaths. But remember, guys, this is the same president who was in control during COVID, and that response led to an estimated over 200,000 preventable deaths. So I guess, preventable deaths are just par for the course for this administration. What you're also going to see is longer wait times, guys, and costs for everyone in the system as we have less healthcare professionals, as more facilities close. And then, guys, also, states are also going to put new mandates to restrict access to safety net programs to address these budget cuts. So you may see increases in state taxes or cutbacks in key sectors like education, infrastructure, potentially police. Anything that is publicly funded with taxpayer money could be on the floor to be cut to help address the lack of funding here now with these Medicaid cuts. They are also, guys, in this bill coming after SNAP or food stamp benefits to the tune of $185 billion. Now, guys, it cost an average of $6 per person per day to feed someone who is on SNAP benefits. People serving in Congress get about 10 times as much as that daily to feed themselves. And they are not hurting financially. So just think about that oxymoron and how just like disgusting that is to take the food out of starving families and children directly. Now, guys, this is going to lead to obviously increased food security and health related issues for people who are relying on these benefits that are now being stripped away. They will likely go towards more ultra processed, cheaper foods just to get by now that they don't even have $6.20 a day. As I'm going through, guys, these impacts are just going to be devastating for people who are already living paycheck to paycheck and just trying to survive. Moving forward, this bill also eliminates Biden-era provisions that move the U.S. closer to clean energy and away from burning fossil fuels. So this legislation is going to cripple the clean energy industry. And there's obviously, guys, climate implications to that, not only in the immediate, but long term. And then there is also provisions in here repealing the SAVE student loan forgiveness program and tightening Pell Grant eligibility. So really, guys, the goal of that is to restrict education access from people who don't have money. So if you're tightening Pell Grant eligibility, people who rely on that to fund, post-secondary education at colleges or universities, there will be less people willing to take on that financial hardship in order to become a doctor or lawyer or biologist or whatever they choose to be in life. That option will likely be off the table for many low-income families. And then repealing of the same student loan forgiveness, guys, that is a way to get more money from everyday Americans funneled into the government to cover for tax breaks for the rich. So that is an overall view of some of the heinous stuff in this bill. And this brings some very obvious realities to the table, guys. First of all, the Republican Party does not give a damn about the deficit or fiscal responsibility or spending. That is a lie that the Republicans have propagated my entire lifetime. This is what Republicans do. They get into office, they then pass massive tax cuts for the rich, which explodes the deficit, trillions of dollars. Then a Democrat gets in office, tries to fix it somewhat, but then the Republicans don't allow them to fix it because they'll point to the deficit that they helped explode. That is the playbook time after time after time after time again. So for Republican, other than the two in the House who voted against this, but if any Republican talks about fiscal responsibility or deficit spending, they should be ignored and laughed at immediately based on the passage of this bill and previous Republican-led bills that give tax cuts for the rich. Next thing that is obvious about this bill. Republicans in office do not give a damn about their voters at all. They care about servicing the rich and corporations because, guys, this bill is incredibly unpopular. According to every poll, including far-right Fox News polling. So this is not a popular bill whatsoever. Republicans said, screw it, we're just going to do it anyways. Research shows also that this bill will disproportionately harm Republicans and Republican voters in poorer red districts. So that's the kind of weird twist of the knife here. But guys, what Republican politicians and right-wing media are going to do, they are going to lie. They are going to continue to shift the blame. They are going to somehow blame Democrats and Biden, even though he's not in office, for this. For people's economic situations, because that's what they do. They take no responsibility except the good parts, right? As Trump says, I'll take responsibility for the good parts, but any bad things that come, they just blame other people because it's poor leadership. They don't want accountability for anything. Next thing that's obvious here, guys, Trump is a liar. Now, I know if you're listening to this, most of you are probably like, duh, but some people out there, guys, believe Trump is like the authoritarian ruler when it comes to truth, objective truth. So I'm going to roll this beautiful clip put together by CNN. And you guys know I have no favor for mainstream media, but CNN did a beautiful job here pointing out how often Trump is just lying repeatedly about Medicaid not being cut.
Medicaid, we're not going to do anything with that. Medicare, Medicaid, none of that stuff is going to be touched. We're not cutting Medicaid. We're not changing Medicaid. Here's what I want on Medicaid. We're not touching anything. Just as I promised, there will be no cuts. There won't be read my lips anymore. We're not going to touch it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, just yet again, another account of Trump and Republican hypocrisy. But the sad reality here, guys, is it does not matter for his staunchest reporters. They do not, or supporters, not reporters too, on like Fox News, but they don't care about the lying. They don't care about the hypocrisy. They don't care. Like, they're there in a lot of situations, sadly, for the hate, for the mindset of like, oh, as long as I'm not getting targeted, I don't really care what happens to brown or black communities. Some people, guys, is the harsh reality. They are here for the cruelty that this party is unleashing. Now, to be fair, there are a segment of Republican voters who hate this, right? I told you the bill was incredibly unpopular, but there is a segment that votes for this. They don't care about the suffering and don't care or don't understand the actual boots on the ground realities of families struggling to take care of their kids and provide for their families. Now, guys, our elected representatives, I think, do fall in those two camps. I think a vast majority of them, remember, guys, most of them are millionaires. Most of them are elderly. They don't represent the demographic and, reality of what we have as United States citizens. So a lot of them don't understand the realities, but then you have another camp, guys, that flat out don't care. So that's what we have with our Republican and some Democratic, a vast majority of Democratic politicians as well. And then the last thing I want to mention, guys, moving on from them just being entirely out of touch, is we are the only developed country in the world that treats healthcare as a privilege rather than a right. Whereas other countries provide healthcare from the government when you're born as a divine right in your country, we think only privileged people who are insured or, who have certain jobs who fully insure them should have care and have, be able to live a life of health and happiness. And those who are, once again, uninsured or underinsured should just suffer? It is just a complete barbaric system that we have in the United States. And guys, there's a reason no other country in the world does it like this, because every other country has realized it's inhumane. So even Israel, guys, who we send all this money to, they have universal health care. It's just an insane situation. Now, those are some of my big takeaways here, but I want to finish, guys, with kind of getting your pulse. So I put out a poll on Instagram. If you guys do not follow me yet, please make sure you do so. But I just wanted to hear about how you guys were feeling. And these are some of the phrases that I got: heartbroken, disgusted, disappointed, devastated, and scared. Guys, I feel all of the emotions that were mentioned there, but I also heard some of the following emotions. I heard pissed off and fired up. And right now, guys, as you can hear me kind of going in on this, I am definitely on that final kind of comments there with being pissed off and fired up. If you have not woken up yet, this bill passing should be a wake-up call for all Americans who are not politically engaged or who do not feel like it's necessary to talk about politics. Guys, the passage of this bill, what we are seeing rain down from this administration, this is what we get when we are not actively engaged and actively aware of what is going on in our political system. A lot of what is happening here, guys, you may feel duped if you voted for Trump and you feel like he lied to you. But if you followed the correct media, which I would not follow basically any mainstream media, a lot of this was obviously predictable. He did tax cuts for the rich the first time, guys. It was going to happen again this most recent time. He was in the room with billionaires and millionaires talking about how rich he's going to make them, guys. This stuff is predictable. So we need to wake up and be aware of who we're voting for. So when stuff like this happens and our elected representatives pass laws that are incredibly unfavorable, we need to be aware that that was always the plan from the beginning. So stay aware. Use your voice. And ultimately, guys, we need to stand up for what is right, not what is easiest, not what's convenient, or not the mentality of I'm good, so I have a good job, I have health care. Who cares about people who can't afford it? We cannot have that mentality either when there is such suffering being inflicted by this administration. Last thing here, guys, I'm going to try to leave with a little bit of a positive note, despite how atrocious this bill is. The more that Trump and the Republicans continue to govern against the will of the people. So, you know, when polling comes out and the people, for instance, are not in favor of things and they continue to do it, we are more likely to get a true left-wing pivot in 2028 and definitely guaranteed to get a blue wave in 2026. So a progressive candidate, guys, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I was hesitant, but I think it's becoming increasingly, likely that a progressive candidate like AOC represents the Democratic Party in 2028 as Republicans continue to get more extreme and more extreme. How do you radicalize people and push them further to the left, right? How do you convince people to join the left? Well, right now, the Republicans are putting together a masterclass right in front of our eyes. Thank you for watching and being part of a growing progressive community. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, check out some of my other episodes you can see around me. Thank you.